Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Psychologist, where intuition meets investigations. My name is Marie St. Louis. I am a clairvoyant and medium who has spent more than 2 decades documenting impressions and sharing information in the hope that it may assist ongoing searches and investigations. Today, we're discussing the disappearance of Joseph Aranda, a father, son, brother, and friend who vanished from Victorville, California, under circumstances that remain unexplained. A father leaves home on a summer afternoon. By the next day, his vehicle sits abandoned at a church. The windows are down, the keys remain inside, personal belongings are left behind, but Joseph is nowhere to be found. And nearly a year later, the questions remain unanswered. As always, the impressions discussed in this episode originate from my psychic abilities and are not presented as facts or evidence. They're simply the impressions I documented and later compared them against publicly available information and AI-assisted geographic analysis. It was a summer afternoon in Victorville, around 3:30 p.m. Joseph was reportedly seen near Dante Street and Stoddard Wells Road. Nothing about the day appeared unusual. There was no indication that within hours his family would begin searching for answers that still have not come. According to public reports, Joseph was wearing an orange Launa work shirt, blue jeans, and black Nike Air Force shoes when he was disappeared. What makes this case unusual is where Joseph's vehicle was reportedly discovered the following day. Not hidden in a remote canyon, not abandoned deep within the desert, not concealed behind an industrial building. Instead, it was reportedly found at Emmanuel Temple CME Church along Stoddard Wells Road. Yet Joseph himself was missing. Nearly a year later, his family is still searching for answers. Before we examine the impressions themselves, let's look at a brief timeline of events. July 10, 2025, Joseph is reportedly last seen near Dante Street and Stoddard Wells Road in Victorville, California. July 11, 2025, Joseph's vehicle is reportedly discovered at Emmanuel Temple CME Church along Stoddard Wells Road. September 11, 2025, I document and submit my psychic impressions and AI-assisted geographic summary to an agency connected to the case. September 15, 2025, the information is later shared with an individual connected to Joseph's case. With that timeline established, let's examine the impressions themselves. One of the very first impressions I received was movement away from populated areas. I repeatedly saw open land, dirt roads, dry washes, long stretches of terrain with very little activity. The farther I traveled in the impression, the more isolated the surroundings appeared to become. At the time, I had no location in mind. I simply documented what I was receiving. Later, AI revealed that just east and northeast of Dante Street and Stoddard Wells Road, residential developments quickly give way to open Mojave Desert terrain. Numerous dirt roads, off-road vehicle trails, utility corridors, flood control washes, and underdeveloped desert parcels extend for miles beyond the city limits. The transition from neighborhood streets to isolated terrain occurs surprisingly fast and closely mirrors the environment I documented in my notes. Another recurring theme involved transportation corridors and industrial infrastructure. My notes referenced rail lines, bylines, tri-lines, overpasses, trucks, heavy equipment, warehouses, distribution activity, air guard, military imagery. Later, AI-assisted analysis revealed that much of the Victorville region contains major transportation corridors, logistic facilities, aviation infrastructure, industrial properties, and the former George Air Force Base, now the Southern California Logistics Airport. What stood out wasn't one specific location, it was the consistency. The same type of environments kept appearing over and over before I ever looked at a map. As I continued reviewing my notes, another theme kept repeating: fencing, boundaries, enclosed spaces, chain link fencing, industrial barriers, areas separated from the surrounding landscape. AI-assisted review identified fenced industrial properties near Stoddard Wells Road, logistic facilities associated with Southern California Logistics Airport, utility compounds, and storage yards throughout the Victorville corridor. Other impressions involved garbage, homeless encampments, scattered clothing, drainage channels, cheap wire fencing, wooden fences falling apart. When AI-assisted analysis was later conducted, those impressions connected to drainage washes, culverts, railroad margins, underpass environments, and industrial fringe zones throughout the portions of Victorville where transient activity has been reported. Along with that direction came a series of specific distance markers: 1.3 miles, 3.7 miles, 5.1, 5.3, 5.7, 6.0, 6.3 miles. I recorded those distances exactly as they came through and moved on. AI-assisted analysis examined distance rings extending north and northwest from the church. Several of those measurements intersect areas where residential neighborhoods become transitioning into industrial properties, utility corridors, drainage systems, desert access roads, and open terrain. One of the few location-related words I documented was Baxter. During later AI technology review, I discovered Baxter Street within the broader Victorville area, generally northwest of the church, where Joseph's vehicle was reportedly found. Other phrases surfaced. They're going far to the right, I'm to the left, then left at the fork. I documented those words exactly as they came through. Later, AI-assisted mapping identified numerous branching desert access roads extending from the Stoddard Wells corridor. Several routes divided into multiple directions, creating fork-like intersections that lead farther into isolated terrain. As I continued reviewing my notes, a few unusual words stood out. Two of them appeared to be in Spanish: perlado and puleda. At the time, I didn't know whether each word was even significant. Later, I learned that perlado can refer to something pearly or reflective, while perlada may refer to a small patch, coating, or area of accumulation. What caught my attention was the imagery they created: light-colored surfaces, pale gravel, concrete, or possibly water collecting in a shallow wash. Could the words be symbolic? Possibly. Could they relate to a name, business, landmark, or something entirely different? That's also possible. I simply documented them exactly as they came through and moved on. Another reoccurring image involved a fox, not once, but several times. I repeatedly documented references to fox sightings, or something connected to the name Fox. Whether that refers to a road, a business, a surname, or simply desert wildlife, I cannot say. Sometimes names appear literally, sometimes they appear symbolically, and sometimes their meaning isn't understood until much later. But it appeared often enough that I felt it deserved to be included. As I continued reviewing the impressions, another image surfaced: a container, a sealer box, storage structures, industrial-type units. The impression felt less like a residence and more like something associated with work, transportation, storage, or equipment. Later, as I examined the broader Victorville area, those images seemed consistent with shipping containers, industrial storage yards, cargo facilities, equipment compounds, and fenced logistic properties scattered throughout the region. Once again, no single location stood out. Instead, the impressions appeared to reinforce the same overall environment that had been repeating throughout the case: industrial activity, storage facilities, transportation infrastructures, and areas where large equipment and cargo are commonly found. Other impressions suggested something beneath or partially concealed. I documented references to a wash, culvert, underbrush, beneath something. Later analysis identified multiple flood control channels, drainage washes, culverts, and underpass environments throughout the broader Victorville area. These features repeatedly appeared in locations where transportation infrastructure intersects open desert terrain. I also documented impressions involving dust, wind, and extremely dry environmental conditions. Now, that may sound simple, but I document even the smallest detail because sometimes one or more of those details may possibly become important later. Victorville's desert climate naturally produces those exact conditions, especially throughout the open terrain east of Stoddard Wells Road and across large portions of the Mojave Desert surrounding the city. Another impression involved travel away from heavily populated areas into quieter surroundings. The farther I moved within the impressions, the fewer people I sensed, the fewer structures I observed, the more isolated the environment appeared to become. That pattern continued to repeat. One of the final impressions involved a location that appeared ordinary during the day but isolated after dark. That impression surfaced more than once, a place people might pass without a second thought during daylight hours. Yet, after sunset, it becomes quiet, remote, almost forgotten. AI-assisted review found numerous industrial corridors, warehouse districts, utility routes, maintenance areas, and desert access roads surrounding Victorville that fit that description. Active during the day, but largely deserted after business hours. As I reviewed all the impressions together, one thing became increasingly clear. No single road stood out, no single business stood out, no single property stood out. Instead, the impressions repeatedly pointed towards the same overall environment: desert, transportation corridors, industrial activity, utility infrastructure, drainage systems, service roads, isolation. And again, the impressions return to that same setting. Whether these connections ultimately prove meaningful remains unknown, but they were significant enough that I felt they deserved to be documented and shared. Joseph's family continued to wonder where he is and what happened. Their search continues because their hope has never ended. So now let's briefly review the key events. July 10th, 2025. Joseph is reportedly last seen near Dante Street and Stoddard Wells Road in Victorville, California. The following day, his vehicle is discovered at Emmanuel Temple CME Church with the keys and personal belongings still inside. On September 11, 2025, I document and submit my psychic impressions along with an AI-assisted geographic summary to an agency connected to the case. And on September 15th, 2025, the information is later shared with an individual connected to Joseph's case. What struck me most was not any single impression. It was the repetition. Different symbols, different words, different images, yet they all seem to lead back to the same type of environment again and again. Open desert, industrial corridors, drainage channels, service roads. Places that can easily be overlooked. Places people pass every day without giving them a second thought. Whether those connections ultimately prove meaningful remains unknown. But what is known is that Joseph Aranda has been missing for nearly a year. A son, a father, a brother, a friend. Someone whose absence is felt every single day by the people who love him. Somewhere tonight, his family is still waiting for answers, still hoping for a phone call, still hoping for a breakthrough, still hoping that someone somewhere knows something. Cases like Joseph's remind us that a missing person is never just a headline, never just a flyer, never just another story scrolling across a screen. Behind every case is a family living through unanswered questions and an empty place at the table. If you have any information regarding Joseph's disappearance, please contact the appropriate law enforcement agency. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. As always, please LSS, like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, this is The Psychologist, where intuition meets investigations.